Welcome to my channel. Listen to my stories every day. Comment, like and subscribe to my channel. Enjoy listening. I was about 56 years old when I found out about my wife Vicky cheating on me. She is much younger than me, only about 36 years old. We have been married for 17 years, a stretch of time that once felt like a warm, unbroken thread, now frayed and unraveling at the edges. The realization didn't hit me all at once. It was a slow, creeping sensation, like a winter frost creeping up the window pane. For the past year, our intimate life had dwindled to almost nothing. At first, I chalked it up to the natural ebb and flow of a long marriage. But then, the signs started to pile up, small at first, almost imperceptible. Vicky began coming home from work later and later. Her excuses, once plausible, now sounded rehearsed, devoid of any genuine remorse or concern. Vicky worked as a bartender at a popular downtown bar. It wasn't unusual for her to work late, especially on weekends. But lately, her late nights had grown more frequent and extended well into the early hours of the morning. I tried to dismiss my growing suspicions, but they gnawed at me, refusing to be ignored. One night, as I sat alone in our dimly lit living room, the silence pressed in on me. The ticking of the clock on the mantel felt like a countdown to something inevitable. I reached for my phone and dialed Vicky's number. It rang and rang before going to voicemail. A familiar knot of anxiety tightened in my chest. The front door creaked open around 2 a.m., and Vicky stumbled in, her eyes glazed and her steps unsteady. She didn't notice me sitting in the shadows, watching her. "Vicky, where have you been?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. She jumped, clutching the doorknob for support. "Oh, Greg, you scared me. I had to work late. A lot of customers tonight." "Really?" I replied, my tone sharper than intended. "It's been happening a lot lately." She shrugged, her eyes avoiding mine. "You know how it is. It's part of the job." But her explanation felt hollow, and the distance between us grew. The love that once bound us now felt like a fragile thread, ready to snap at any moment. Days turned into weeks, and Vicky's late nights continued. My suspicions grew, fueled by every missed call and vague excuse. I found myself unable to concentrate at work, my thoughts constantly drifting back to Vicky and the gnawing doubt that had taken root in my mind. One evening, as I sat at the dinner table alone, the food untouched, I made a decision. I had to know the truth, no matter how painful it might be. I couldn't live in this limbo any longer. "Greg, what's wrong?" Vicky asked, entering the kitchen. Her face showed concern, but I wondered if it was genuine or merely a mask. "Nothing," I lied, forcing a smile. "Just tired from work." She nodded, but her eyes seemed distant. As she turned away, I noticed a faint scent of cologne on her clothes, a scent that wasn't mine. That night I lay awake, my mind racing. Memories of our early years together flooded my thoughts, the laughter, the shared dreams, the promises we made to each other. But now, those memories felt tainted, overshadowed by doubt and betrayal. I decided to follow her the next night. I had to know for sure. The thought of Vicky with someone else made my stomach churn, but I needed the truth. I couldn't live in the dark any longer. The following evening I waited until Vicky left for work. I grabbed my coat and keys, my heart pounding in my chest. I trailed her car at a safe distance, my palms sweaty on the steering wheel. She drove downtown as expected, but instead of heading straight to the bar, she parked in a secluded lot a few blocks away. I watched as she stepped out of the car and walked briskly towards a side entrance of the bar. I waited for a few minutes before following her in. The bar was dimly lit and crowded, the noise of laughter and clinking glasses filling the air. I scanned the room, searching for Vicky. My heart sank when I saw her. She was at the far end of the bar, her back turned to me. A young man in his 20s was leaning in close, whispering something in her ear. She laughed, a sound that once brought me joy but now felt like a dagger to my heart. I stood frozen, my mind racing. I wanted to storm over to confront them, but my feet felt like they were rooted to the ground. Instead, I watched, my heart breaking as Vicky leaned in closer to the young man, her hand resting on his arm. The love that had once been the foundation of our marriage was now crumbling before my eyes. I knew I had to confront Vicky to demand answers, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, I turned and walked out of the bar, my mind a whirlwind of emotions. As I drove home, my thoughts were consumed by a single, burning question: why? Why had Vicky betrayed me? What had I done wrong? The answers eluded me, leaving only a hollow ache in my chest. I knew that this was just the beginning. The truth had come crashing down on me, and there was no turning back. The love that once bound us was gone, replaced by doubt and betrayal. And as I lay in bed that night, the darkness pressing in, I made a vow to myself. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The following day, I wake up with a sense of grim determination. Last night had confirmed my worst fears, but there was no time for wallowing in self-pity. I need answers, and I'm not going to find them by sitting at home. I decide to follow Vicky again, this time more prepared. I leave work early and head home to get changed. Vicky's shift at the bar doesn't start until later in the evening, giving me ample time to plan my next move. I change into something more discreet: dark jeans, a black jacket, and a baseball cap. My heart pounds in anticipation, but I push the nerves aside. I have to do this. As evening approaches, I wait patiently in the living room, pretending to read the newspaper when Vicky finally walks in. Her expression is as detached as ever, her eyes avoiding mine. I watch her from the corner of my eye as she heads to the bedroom to change. "Hey, Vicky," I call out, trying to sound casual. "What time will you be home tonight?" She pauses, her hand on the doorknob. "Late, probably. It's a busy night at the bar." "Okay," I reply, forcing a smile. "Stay safe." She nods, disappearing into the bedroom. I hear her rummaging through the closet, followed by the soft thud of the door closing behind her. A few minutes later, she emerges dressed in her work uniform, tight black jeans and a fitted shirt. She grabs her purse and heads for the door. "Bye, Greg," she says, her tone indifferent. "Bye, Vicky," I reply, watching her leave. I wait until I hear her car start and pull out of the driveway before grabbing my keys and heading to my own car. I follow her at a safe distance, just as I did the night before. She drives the familiar route downtown, but this time I'm ready for whatever might come next. Vicky parks in the same secluded lot as before and heads towards the side entrance of the bar. I park a few spots away and get out, my eyes locked on her. She doesn't notice me as she slips inside. I take a deep breath and follow her in, the dimly lit bar enveloping me in a haze of noise and shadows. I scan the room, searching for her. She's at the far end of the bar, talking to the same young man from last night. His name tag reads Josh, and he's got that cocky, confident look of someone who knows he's attractive. I sidle up to a table near the bar, keeping my eyes on Vicky and Josh. They're laughing, leaning in close to each other. It's more than just friendly banter, there's an intimacy there that makes my stomach churn. "Hey, you all right?" a voice asks, pulling me out of my thoughts. I turn to see a young woman, probably in her late 20s, with curly brown hair and a friendly smile. She's carrying a tray of drinks and wearing the same uniform as Vicky. Yeah, I reply, trying to sound nonchalant. "Just waiting for a friend." She nods, setting the drinks down at a nearby table. "Name's Emily. If you need anything, just holler." "Thanks, Emily," I say, giving her a tight smile. As she walks away, I turn my attention back to Vicky and Josh. They're even closer now, Josh's hand resting on Vicky's lower back. My fists clench under the table, anger and betrayal boiling inside me. Just then, another bartender, a burly man with a shaved head named Rick, approaches them. He says something to Josh, and they both laugh. Vicky joins in, her face lighting up in a way I haven't seen in years. The sight of her so happy with someone else is like a punch to the gut. I can't take it anymore. I stand up and make my way towards the bar, my heart pounding in my chest. As I get closer, I hear bits and pieces of their conversation. Believe you did that," Vicky says, giggling. "You're such an idiot." Josh grins. "Yeah, but you love it." She playfully slaps his arm. Shut up. My blood boils. I step up to the bar, my eyes locked on Vicky. Vicky. She looks up, her smile fading. Greg, what are you doing here? I could ask you the same thing, I reply, my voice tight with barely controlled anger. What's going on here? Josh steps forward, trying to intervene. Hey man, this isn't what it looks like. I glare at him. Stay out of this. Vicky's face flushes with guilt and anger. Greg, you're making a scene. Let's talk about this at home. No, I say, my voice rising. We're talking about it now. What the hell is going on? Emily, the friendly waitress, appears at my side, a worried look on her face. Is everything okay here? Everything's fine, Vicky snaps. Greg, please let's go home and talk. I shake my head, feeling the weight of betrayal crushing me. No, Vicky, I'm not going anywhere until you tell me the truth. Rick, the other bartender, steps forward, his expression stern. Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave if you're causing trouble. Causing trouble, I laugh bitterly. You have no idea. Vicky's eyes fill with tears. Greg, please. Let's not do this here. I look at her, my heart breaking. Vicky, how could you? She doesn't answer, her eyes dropping to the floor. The silence is deafening, the truth hanging in the air between us. Finally, I turn and walk out of the bar, the weight of betrayal heavy on my shoulders. As I step into the cool night air, I know one thing for certain: this isn't over, not by a long shot. In the coming days, I plan my next move. I need to understand why this happened, and more importantly, I need to decide what to do next. The love that once held us together is gone, replaced by a burning desire for the truth, and a simmering rage that demands justice. I spend the next few days in a daze, the confrontation at the bar replaying in my mind like a broken record. Vicky had betrayed me, but what hurt even more was her refusal to explain why. Every time I tried to talk to her, she deflected or shut down, her eyes filled with guilt, but her lips sealed tight. One evening, I find myself sitting at the kitchen table, staring at a blank piece of paper. A glass of whiskey sits untouched beside me, the amber liquid catching the dim light. I need to clear my head to figure out my next move. I'm not one to let things go easily, and this situation demands action. I pick up the phone and call my old friend Tom. We've known each other since college, and he's always been the guy to turn to in times of trouble. After a few rings, he picks up. Greg, is everything all right? Tom, I need your help. Can you come over? There's a pause on the other end. Sure, man. I'll be there in 20 minutes. True to his word, Tom arrives at my door a short while later. He's a solid guy, in his late 50s like me, with a no-nonsense attitude that I've always admired. He steps inside, taking one look at me and knowing something seriously wrong. What's going on, Greg? I motion for him to sit down and pour him a drink. It's Vicky. She's cheating on me. Tom's face hardens. Are you sure? I nod, feeling the weight of the truth in my chest. I followed her to the bar. Saw her with this young guy named Josh. It's more than just a fling, Tom. She's been distant for months, and now I know why. Tom takes a sip of his drink, thinking. So what's your plan? That's why I called you, I admit. I need advice. I can't just sit around and do nothing, but I don't know where to start. Tom leans back, considering. First, you need more information. If you're going to confront her and make any decisions, you need to know exactly what you're dealing with. You need proof, Greg. I saw them together, I protest. I know, Tom says patiently, but you need concrete evidence, something she can't deny. Have you considered hiring a private investigator? The idea had crossed my mind, but hearing Tom suggest it makes it seem more plausible. Do you know anyone? As a matter of fact, I do. I'll make a call. Tom steps outside to make the call, leaving me alone with my thoughts. The idea of hiring a PI feels like something out of a movie, but I'm desperate for answers. When Tom returns, he has a name and a number. His name is Sam Turner. He's good, discreet. Give him a call tomorrow. Thanks, Tom, I say, feeling a glimmer of hope for the first time in days. The next morning, I call Sam Turner and set up a meeting. We arrange to meet at a small cafe downtown. When I arrive, Sam is already there, sipping a coffee. He's in his early 40s with a sharp, intelligent look about him. Mr. Parker, he says, standing to shake my hand. That's me. Thanks for meeting me on such short notice. No problem. Tom filled me in a bit. Why don't you tell me exactly what you need? I recount everything, the late nights, the distant behavior, the scene at the bar. Sam listens carefully, taking notes. I can start right away, he says when I finish. I'll need a few details: her schedule, any places she frequents besides work. I provide him with everything I can think of, hoping it will be enough. Sam nods, his expression serious. I'll be in touch. Expect an update in a few days. The waiting is the hardest part. Every night, Vicky comes home late, and every night I lie awake, wondering where she's been and who she's been with. I try to act normal, but the tension between us is palpable. Finally, after what feels like an eternity, Sam calls. I have some information. Can we meet? We meet at the same cafe. Sam slides a folder across the table to me. It's all in there. Photos, dates, times. It's worse than you thought. My hands tremble as I open the folder. There are pictures of Vicky and Josh, not just at the bar but at various places around town, restaurants, parks, even a hotel. The evidence is damning, undeniable. What do I do now, I ask, my voice barely above a whisper. That's up to you, Sam says gently. You could confront her with this, but be prepared for her reaction. It's going to be tough. I nod, closing the folder. Thanks, Sam. You've been a big help. As I drive home, my mind races. Confronting Vicky is inevitable, but how? I need to be smart about this. I need a plan. That night, I wait for Vicky to come home. When she walks in, she looks surprised to see me sitting in the living room, the folder on the coffee table in front of me. Greg, what's going on? Sit down, Vicky, I say, trying to keep my voice steady. She hesitates but then sits down, her eyes flicking nervously to the folder. What is this, she asks. I take a deep breath. It's everything, Vicky. Proof of your affair with Josh. I know everything. Her face drains of color, and she opens her mouth to speak, but no words come out. Finally, she manages to say, Greg, I'm so sorry. Sorry isn't enough, I say, the anger and hurt bubbling up inside me. You've been lying to me for months. I trusted you. Tears fill her eyes, but I can't find any sympathy. I want you to pack your things and leave, I say, my voice cold. We're done. She looks like she's about to argue, but then thinks better of it. She nods, tears streaming down her face. I understand. I'll go. As she packs her things, I feel a strange mix of relief and sorrow. Our marriage is over, but at least now I know the truth. As she walks out the door, I can't help but wonder what the future holds. But one thing is certain, I'm not going to let this betrayal define me. I'm going to move forward, stronger and wiser. The intrigue of the past months has finally come to a head, but the real challenge lies ahead. Rebuilding my life, finding a way to trust again, and maybe, just maybe, finding love once more. The road ahead is uncertain, but I'm ready to face it head on. The days after Vicky leaves are a blur. The house feels emptier than ever, the silence deafening. I go through the motions, but my mind is constantly on overdrive, replaying every moment, every clue I missed. I thought uncovering the truth about Vicky's affair would bring closure, but instead it's left me with more questions and a gnawing sense of unfinished business. Tom checks in on me regularly, his concern palpable. One evening, he invites me over for a drink. I agree, hoping a change of scenery might help clear my head. Tom's house is warm and inviting, a stark contrast to the cold emptiness of my own. We sit in his living room, sipping whiskey. "How are you holding up?" Greg Tom asks, genuine concern in his eyes. "I'm managing," I reply, though we both know it's a lie. It's just, I can't shake the feeling that there's more to this, that I'm missing something. Tom nods slowly, as if considering his next words carefully. "There might be, Greg. I didn't want to say anything until I was sure, but I've been doing some digging of my own." I look at him, curiosity piqued. "What do you mean?" "I've known you and Vicky for a long time," Tom begins, his voice steady. "And something about this whole situation didn't sit right with me. So, I did some investigating. I found out that Josh isn't just some random guy. He's connected to someone from Vicky's past." My heart skips a beat. "Who?" "Her ex-boyfriend, Mark. They dated briefly before she met you. Mark has a reputation, a bad one. He's been in and out of trouble for years. I think he's the one who set this whole thing in motion." I stare at Tom, trying to process the information. Why would he do that? "Revenge," Tom says simply. "From what I've gathered, Mark never got over Vicky leaving him for you. He's been holding a grudge all these years." The revelation hits me like a ton of bricks. "So, you're saying this was all orchestrated? That Vicky's affair was part of some elaborate scheme?" Tom nods. "It looks that way. Mark used Josh to get close to Vicky, to manipulate her. I think Vicky got caught up in something she didn't fully understand. Oh, a mix of anger and disbelief wells up inside me. Why didn't she tell me? Maybe she was scared. Maybe she didn't know how deep it went. Or maybe she didn't realize until it was too late." As Tom's words sink in, I feel a renewed sense of purpose. I need to get to the bottom of this. I need to confront Mark. "Do you know where I can find him?" I ask, my voice resolute. Tom nods. "I have an address. Be careful, Greg. This guy is dangerous." Armed with the address, I head out, adrenaline pumping through my veins. The address leads me to a rundown apartment complex on the outskirts of town. The place looks as shady as Mark's reputation suggests. I knock on the door, my heart pounding. After a moment, the door swings open, and I'm face to face with Mark. He's in his early 40s, with a smug look that makes my blood boil. "Greg Parker," he says, leaning against the doorframe. "I've been expecting you." "Cut the crap, Mark," I snap. "I know what you did. You manipulated Vicky, ruined my marriage. Why?" Mark chuckles, a cold, mirthless sound. "Why? Because she was mine, and you took her from me." "She left you," I retort, "and you couldn't handle it, so you dragged us all down with you." Mark's eyes flash with anger. "She was supposed to be with me, not you. I made sure she remembered that." By ruining her life? By using Josh to get to her, I step closer, my fists clenched. "Josh was a willing participant," Mark says, his tone dismissive. "He's a good kid, but easily influenced, just like Vicky." "Where is she?" I demand. "Where's Vicky?" "She's gone," Mark replies, his expression unreadable. "She left town. Didn't you know?" "Guess she didn't care enough to tell you." The words hit hard, but I push the pain aside. "You're going to pay for this, Mark. One way or another." Mark smirks. "I'd like to see you try." Before I can react, the door slams shut in my face. I stand there, seething with rage and frustration. But this isn't over. Not by a long shot. I drive home, my mind racing. I need to find Vicky, to hear her side of the story. She's the key to understanding everything. I reach out to Sam Turner again, asking for his help in locating Vicky. He agrees, and within a few days he has a lead. She's staying in a small town about an hour away, trying to lay low. I drive to the address Sam provided, a modest house on the outskirts of town. My heart races as I knock on the door. After a moment it opens, and there stands Vicky. She looks tired, worn down, but there's a flicker of recognition in her eyes. "Greg," she says softly. "What are you doing here?" "We need to talk," I say, my voice firm but gentle. I know about Mark. I know what he did. Tears well up in her eyes as she steps aside to let me in. We sit in the small living room, the weight of the past few months hanging heavily between us. I'm sorry, Greg, she begins, her voice trembling. I got caught up in something I didn't understand. Mark. He blackmailed me. He threatened to hurt you if I didn't go along with it. Why didn't you tell me, I ask, my voice breaking. I was scared, she admits, and ashamed. I didn't want you to think I was weak. I thought I could handle it, but it just got worse. I take her hand, my anger giving way to empathy. Vicky, we could have faced this together. You didn't have to go through it alone. She nods, tears streaming down her face. I know that now. I'm so sorry, Greg. For everything. We sit in silence for a moment, the weight of her confession settling in. There's still a lot to work through, but for the first time in months, I feel a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, we can find a way to move forward. I want to help you, I say finally. To help us. But we need to take this one step at a time. Vicky nods, a look of determination in her eyes. I want that too, Greg. More than anything. As we sit together, I realize that the journey ahead won't be easy. There will be challenges, and the scars of the past will take time to heal. But for the first time, we're facing it together. And that's a start. The truth has finally come to light, and with it, the chance for a new beginning. The road ahead is uncertain, but with Vicky by my side, I'm ready to face whatever comes next.